All right. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Joe.
How are you doing during this COVID crisis and stay at home? How's your team?
Well, the team is doing well. We check in frequently and we're trying to reach out to everyone and see what they need right now and reassure them about their court cases that
Mhm.
things are not moving forward right now, but their cases have not been forgotten. And we are continuing to track them through the system and keep them updated on any new developments.
So, for those who are on social media and don't know the services we provide for children, talk to us about your program, what it is you do, and one of the reasons we want to talk to you is it is Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month.
Right. So Children's Court Services works with children and families who are going through the court system because something has happened. The child has been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime and may have to go to court and testify about what happened. And so we want to be their touch point throughout the process to make sure they understand the legal process, that they understand their options and understand their rights. And we want to hook them up with necessary resources and then just kind of guide them through that whole process. The court system is a very long and difficult process to go through. So we want families to know that they don't have to do that alone and that children will be well prepared before we ask them to walk into a courtroom and testify.
And for the children, these clients that Children's Court Services serves, these are children primarily who have been sexually abused?
I would say the vast majority are sexual abuse, but also kids who've been physically abused, kids who have witnessed domestic violence or other violent crimes, children who have been assaulted, online crimes, or there's online solicitation over the internet. There's a wide variety, unfortunately, of crimes against children.
Yeah. And right now, I think there's some special attention around children during this whole COVID stay-at-home crisis. What we've been reading, at least I've read a few stories about the concern that we might not be reporting as many child abuse cases because kids are home, they're not at school, where teachers or counselors might, spot warning signs, and then the stress of being home.
Right.
Can you talk a little
This
bit
is
about
a stressful time. It's a very stressful time for all of us, certainly. We can all acknowledge that. And I think it's kind of a double-edged sword for kids. Some kids are in new situations right now where they would normally be in school. They're staying home with someone that maybe they don't normally stay with. And so that can be risky. And then also they're away from their helpers because oftentimes teachers and people that they interact with at school or in the community, those are the people they might disclose to if they have something that they need to tell. So it's really important during this time for parents to be vigilant about the people that their children are around, to watch for warning signs and for them to be available to their kids if their kids want to tell them something.
So what if children are put in harm's way by their own parents, though? What can we do?
So that's a difficult situation. We hope that there is someone else in their life that a child can reach out to, that a relative or sibling or someone else in the household that they might be able to confide in. That's why it's so important to have good communication with kids and to have had safety talks with kids all throughout their lives. We should be always teaching children about safety and who their helpers are so that when something does come up, they know who they can talk to.
Yeah, having someone they can trust. Can you talk to us about some practical things during this time that maybe if you're a caregiver or if you're a friend or a supportive family member that you should be looking out for if a child is in distress or in harm's way?
I think the challenge right now is that kids are stressed anyway because of the situation. And so a lot of the signs and symptoms of child abuse are going to be the same as children who are traumatized by the COVID-19 situation. So that makes it a little more difficult. The kids who have a hard time, difficulty sleeping, if their eating habits change, if they are reluctant to be around a particular person, or if they're reluctant to go to a certain place, if they show regressive behavior, maybe they start wetting the bed or start sucking their thumbs, things that are behaviors that they are long past that they revert to, that's a sign that something's wrong. And that's not necessarily a definite indicator that the child is being abused, but something is wrong. And so it might be the trauma of their current situation, or it could be the trauma of abuse. And so it's just important to check in with our kids frequently and see how they're feeling about everything that's going on. But then also to talk to them about abuse, to talk to them about the potential for that, and that they know that their bodies are their own and that they can tell you anything that happens to them. Kids need to know that they can trust their parents to protect them. And so if the parent is not the abuser, the parent can be that trusted person that a child will tell if something's going on.
What worries you or distresses you and your team most during this time, Pam?
Well, I think it's knowing that this is going to cause such great delays for families. Many times families who are caught up in a court case, really, court's kind of the ending. It's a way to kind of close out this chapter and move on with things. And this is going to cause great delays. And we were already under a lot of delays still from Hurricane Harvey. We hadn't caught up from that yet. And now this is going to cause even more delays. So for many children, this will be a large part of their childhood. The experience of being abused, the telling, the investigation, waiting to go to court, is going to take a lot of years. And that's unfortunate for children that they have to hang on to it for that long before we're able to move on. So I think that's a concern for kids.
Yeah, and I feel like now more than ever, that the support that your advocates and your team provide to these families are so important. I mean, the waiting, like you said, we're already a couple of years from Harvey, still reeling from that, and now the continued waiting.
Right. So we want families to know that we're still here. A lot of our services were provided on the telephone anyway, and we're continuing to do that. We're not doing any trial preparation right now because we don't know when the courts are going to resume with that activity, but we are available to clients. We're doing a lot of resourcing with them and pointing them in the direction of resources for food and for free internet so that they can have their kids do their schoolwork, for utilities and rent and all of the basic needs that many of our families are facing real problems with right now because they're out of work. So we're trying to meet them where they're at and provide whatever we can, what kind of support and resources we can during this really difficult time.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Pam. Is there anything else you'd like to share about Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month? You've been at this advocacy work for decades. And I know that April is a special time because we always put the blue ribbons outside WA, our counseling and education campus. And it's just it's a nice time to raise awareness, to recognize, to honor the children that you serve, that we serve. Anything that people, how can they help? How can they be a part of this movement?
Well, wearing blue in all your social media appearances, if you can wear blue for Child Abuse Prevention Month, but also just if you're in contact with kids, whether they're your kids or relatives or other people's kids, to let kids know you're a helper, to let them know that you're someone that they can trust and they can confide in. And I think it's really important, the reaction that children get when they tell. And so if a child does choose you as that person they trust to tell, it's really important that you acknowledge that it was a hard thing for them to do, that you're glad that they told you, that you believe them, and that it wasn't their fault. Kids need to hear that affirming message right away. I'm glad you told me it wasn't your fault, and I believe you.
I'm writing these down.
So if you're the person that a child picks out to tell, which is for me an honor, if a child trusts you enough to tell you something like that, that it's really important that you respond appropriately.
And that's why you're the angel you are, Pam. Thanks for everything.